inflation rises, what is the impact on your portfolio? Rebecca Walser is with us, President Walser Wealth Management, to take a look at this because we talk about an inflationary environment. And what's your current outlook? Because some say it's transitory, some say it's the real deal.
You know, Nicole, I would normally love to say that it's transitory, but when we see that we got the ARP, there's so many acronyms, right? But we got the ARP plan in March, which was 1.9 trillion. That's supposed to really take us through, hopefully back to an organic reopening. But now you've got this administration saying they want to do an American Family Plan, AFP. They want to do an infrastructure plan. We know that the Wharton School last week basically reassessed this administration's, proposal for infrastructure, which they say is going to cost 1.8 trillion. But in fact, Wharton said that it's closer to 2.5 trillion. So when you start to add up, Nicole, all of these multi-trillion packages on top of the 8 trillion that we literally passed last year between the CARES Act, the HEROES Act, and then ARP, like I'm talking about. And then you have the Federal Reserve purchasing $120 billion a month. So still quantitative easing, still stimulating the economy. You can just see that we are headed for inflation. And inflation is a real problem because I saw a picture just the other day in Venezuela of cash laying on the street as trash. They don't even pick up their cash because it's so worthless. It's trash.
I believe it. It's ironic that you talk about Venezuela. It's a story that people watch about a great nation that was hit hard many years later after a lot of policy changes. That being said, let's talk about the Fed a little more and the taper tizzy that may be to come here. Do we need to taper more? Do we, need to raise rates sooner than the Fed is talking about into 2023? What does the Fed need to do? Are they putting us in jeopardy to a certain extent by waiting too long?
They are, Nicole. This is a big problem. And, I thought it was interesting last week when Secretary Yellen said that maybe rates do have to go up. And, obviously she's the former head of the Fed and she understands what's happening here is that, look, you cannot come out of a global pandemic where you're spending $120 billion at the Federal Reserve level a month to stimulate. And yet you're reopening, you're reinstituting, and you're also at the same time passing massive tax increases and these massive government spending programs. And you have all of this happening at the same time, not to throw a monkey wrench into this, Nicole, but at the same time, the World Economic Forum is really pushing a global great reset. And inflation is one of the ways that Klaus Schwab has talked about actually implementing that, because we could literally see the end of all currencies and one world currency, which is what the global reset is actually ultimately after.
Well, when you look at what's going, first of all, Janet Yellen did try to roll back her comments to a certain extent, which gave some relief to the market after she sort of spooked the market single-handedly.
Yes.
That being said, now what? What about our portfolio? That's what this show is really about, Rebecca. What are you telling folks in an inflationary environment? Where are the opportunities? Should I be scared about my money that I have invested? What do I need to change? That's what people want to know.
Yeah, we need to see a lot more from this administration as it comes to tax policy this year. We already know that they've talked about implementing a higher corporate tax, capital gains tax rate, corporate tax aside, capital gains tax rate for people that are making $1 million of earnings or greater. And then potentially a change of the capital gain tax rate we'll see altogether. So what I will tell people is we already know this administration's wanting to eliminate the 1014 step up at death, which many people have built into their actual estate planning. So we need to start to look at if we're going to have a step up in capital gains next year, and that applies to you as somebody who actually is going to have this impact, you need to look at, should I look at selling my portfolio and buying it back just so I can step up to fair market value my basis in a capital gains tax year where the capital gains are 15 and 20% still. So that's, Nicole, the thing to look at this year because of the tax changes that we know are already coming next year.
So you sell and then buy again? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Let's say that you love your portfolio and you wouldn't change a thing, but your basis is zero or low, and you know that the capital gain taxes are coming and changing next year. I absolutely would sell into my portfolio and buy my portfolio right back, and I've then stepped up my basis. I recognize the gain at hopefully 15% or 20%, depending on the income bracket that you're in. Yes. Right.
So instead of the last year of gains that you've already realized, you can get in and out and not have that be your starting point. You could have today be your starting point, for example. Right. And we've seen many stocks go up 50, 100, 200% during the last 52 weeks. That being said, what are we missing? You know, for somebody who's going into the long-term hold here and trying to put asset allocation in their portfolio, what do you definitely think that we shouldn't miss when saving?
Well, you have to understand, I mean, I'm seriously concerned about all of the trusts, the millions and millions of trusts that exist in this country, Nicole, that are expecting to step up at death to fair market value. I'm concerned about that, and we need to start looking at that because that is going to change. We know that's being eliminated. As far as potential opportunity with the market this year, Nicole, we got to get this right. We cannot overstimulate, hyperstimulate while we're reopening. We have to get this mix right. We don't want inflation in the middle of tax increases, in the middle of trying to organically open this country and get back to some levelized normalcy of business. So we really need the Federal Reserve to get this right and to not create inflation. And it's my worry. So obviously, when we're looking at inflationary pressure, commodities perform well during inflationary pressure times.
All right, Rebecca Walser, always great to have you on the show. We really appreciate it. Rebecca Walser, President, Walser Wealth Management.